Coming up on today's show, we have a major A.J. Brown trade report from an Eagles insider from the NFL Combine. With that, I want to pop up today's poll question, and I want to hear from everybody down in the comment section right now. I want you to make your predictions and let your voices be heard, because I always want you to be a part of this show. Will A.J. Brown be a Philadelphia Eagle in 2026? Type yes, type no, and with that, let's get the show underway. All right, we're off and running. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. We're here in Indianapolis for the 2026 NFL Combine. I hope all of you have been enjoying our coverage from Indy. And a major talking point here at the Combine has been all of this A.J. Brown trade buzz. And to give you a glimpse into what our weeks are like, we talk with NFL draft prospects. We do a lot of Eagle shows talking about the latest news and rumors. But when you look around here at the Indianapolis Convention Center, it's a who's who of people who are scattered across the NFL. Coaches, scouts, GMs, members of the front office, media members, and it's kind of like a football job conference here. You've got an opportunity to talk to a bunch of people across the NFL, and this is a topic matter that continues to come up. You have the Eagles, who won a Super Bowl in 2024 in one of the biggest media markets in the country. A.J. Brown is a great player, and so that's why this has continued to be one of the hotter storylines across the entire National Football League. And look, I look at the comment section, whether it's on YouTube or on my social media pages. I see you and I hear you on X, Instagram, TikTok, right here on Eagles Now. Eagles fans are tired of this A.J. Brown trade speculation. Now, I will say he has caused it, and it's been a talking point consistently over the last couple of years, mostly because of A.J. Brown, but also because of those other factors. But I am here to tell you, as somebody who has boots on the ground here in Indianapolis, it's a legitimate story. If A.J. comes back to the Eagles and plays in 2026, I won't be surprised. If he does get dealt, I also would not be surprised. And this is important for everybody to understand because, as I always like to say here on this show, context is really important. And here in Indy, too, you go out to dinner. You walk the streets. I go out on a run. You also see a lot of these agents who are here working on behalf of their clients. A.J. Brown's agent is reaching out to other teams across the NFL, gauging their interest in what they would be willing to give up to trade for his client. Who does A.J. Brown's agent work for? He is employed by A.J. Brown. Why would his agent be reaching out to other teams, engaging the trade interest for his client if this wasn't at least a thing, if it wasn't a possibility? As much as you don't want to hear about it, it is a possibility from everybody I talk to here at the NFL Combine. Now, what are people saying here at the Combine? You have Diana Russini, who is saying that, yeah, this is a possibility. Mike Garafolo is saying on PHLY that he would lean toward A.J. being back with the Eagles in 2026. I talked to some people, and some people think that he's going to get traded. Others don't. Some feel good about it. Some others don't. A team that has always been at the forefront in these A.J. Brown trade conversations is the New England Patriots. A.J. Brown for a long time has been a big fan of the Patriots. He doesn't care about the Boston-Philadelphia rivalry. That doesn't matter when you're somebody growing up watching the game of football who has no ties to the city of Philadelphia. But A.J. Brown has always been a big fan of Tom Brady. And now he's especially close with Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was the head coach when A.J. Brown got drafted in the second round out of Ole Miss to Tennessee, and they have remained very close. And earlier this week, Mike Vrabel was asked about A.J., and this clip that we're about to play for you goes to show you how tight-knit their relationship is, and honestly, it comes across kind of flirtatious.
I think the relationship with players, and specifically you asked about AJ, has meant a lot. I've watched him grow. I've watched him mature. I'm proud of him. Proud of the father that he is. I'm proud of the husband, and that has nothing to do with where he plays and where he played. So those are the things that are important. We reach out and text each other during the things that happen good to each other, and sometimes things don't go so well for the people that you're close with, and you text those as well. So it's a two-way street of support and reminders of what got us to where we are here today.
And you think about why the Patriots are looked at as a destination for AJ. There is the AJ Vrabel connection. AJ has been fond of New England, but Howie Roseman doesn't care about that, right? And New England doesn't care about that. New England is in need of a number one wide receiver. They just got exposed in Super Bowl 60 against the Seattle Seahawks. A.J. Brown would help to fill that void. Drake May is on his rookie contract for the next 3 years, and he's costing right now a fraction of what he will cost if he continues to ascend and lands a second contract, which at that point could be north of $60 million. The Patriots have a lot of cap space to absorb an A.J. type of deal. They also have some draft capital at their disposal. So working off of that, the report that I mentioned off the rip from that aforementioned Eagles insider, it's Jeff McLane of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and we'll go through a couple of portions from his article that he dropped just moments ago here on this Friday, February 27th, second to last day of February. A lot has changed around Browns, Eagles, and Vrabel's Patriots a year later. And with Eagles general manager Howie Roseman unwilling to shut the door on Brown being obtainable for the right price, Vrabel's openness about his communication with the 28-year-old could be characterized as flirtatious. Now, I mentioned that word a little bit earlier. Obviously, it has nothing to do with dating, right? It has to do with Vrabel's interest in A.J. Brown, the Patriots' interest in A.J. Brown. And I discussed this earlier this week as well. Howie Roseman leaving the door ajar and not shutting down completely the possibility of AJ getting dealt. Of course, any general manager is not going to say, yeah, we're going to trade a player. Howie is trying to maximize value just in case a trade does come to fruition, or he gets a deal that he feels as though is the best deal for the Philadelphia Eagles. And here's what Howie said earlier this week about 30 feet from me on an A.J. Brown trade.
I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of conversations in the offseason about players on your team, on other teams. That's really the job. That's the fun part about the offseason is the opportunities to improve your team, the opportunities to make trades. But at the end of the day, again, we're trying to get better, and it's hard to do that if you're just subtracting great players. We'll do whatever's in the best interest of our team to be better for this year and going forward. Anything that puts us in position that we think to potentially win another championship. So every decision will be made with that, no matter who the player is.
All great points by Howie, right? A.J. Brown is an elite player. He's arguably the best wide receiver in franchise history. A.J. Brown makes the Eagles better. And you think about where the Eagles are as a team. In a down year, they still won the division, still hosted a playoff game, still won double-digit games. They are in this Super Bowl window with a very expensive offense that has a lot of players in their prime who are getting older. And so, yes, the Eagles are worse off getting rid of a very special player. But what if the relationship is too far gone? And what if the relationship is a little bit strained between the Eagles and A.J. Brown? What if it comes to a point where all of this has become too much to bear for this organization, where Howie, Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, this entire team just don't want to deal with the distraction any longer? That's completely valid. Back to Jeff McLane. And this is where things are very interesting, throwing out a timeline here. That is why a decision on Brown will seemingly be made sooner, as in the next 10 days, ahead of the official start of the legal tampering period on March 9th rather than later. At least that's the sense sources close to several Eagles with uncertain futures have gotten from their conversations with the team this week. This isn't coming from just anybody and some random reporter, right? This is coming from Jeff McLane, who is a classic Big J journalist who is very tapped into the Eagles organization and has been covering this team for a very long time. The timeline here that McLane threw out there also makes a bunch of sense given the offseason schedule across the NFL. NFL free agency begins on March 9th. That's that legal tampering period, right? that's when deals can start to be agreed upon verbally. And we'll be covering that here on Eagles Now. Then the NFL draft is at the end of April. Well, if the Eagles are going to trade A.J. Brown, don't they want to know what their wide receiver room is going to look like if they don't have one of the top wideouts in the National Football League on their team going into free agency, going into the draft? And this is a rich wide receiver class that consists of a lot of different wide receivers of different molds and different tastes, if you will. McLane, again, what Roseman is doing here is creating momentum and building a market that would draw in competing offers. All he needs is 2 interested teams to create leverage. 3 teams could get him closer to the finish line depending upon the actual value he is assigned to Brown. Roseman's tactics are renowned. He'll set the cost much higher than prevailing wisdom says it should be. One NFL executive said he heard the Eagles were seeking a return that included both a first and second round pick. Whether accurate or not, it's a price tag already being floated within league circles. And I always say this about negotiations, right? Whether you are an employee negotiating with your employer or you're an employer, you can see this standpoint. You start negotiations with a high price, you continue to negotiate, and then that price comes down from there. So if Howie doesn't get a good offer, he's not going to trade A.J. Brown. But what if a team gives up a first and a second round pick where the Eagles can address offensive skill positions in this draft that is rich of players at the offensive skill spots on an offense that last year was the most expensive offense in the NFL? Then you draft, let's say, 2 offensive skill players. You have those players under cost-controlled contracts for the next 4 to 5 years. That's a reset of the organization financially that keeps you competitive and very talented. Now, coming up next, I'm going to be joined by Fran Duffy of PHLY. I asked him about A.J. Brown. He handles PHLY's overall draft content from a national perspective, but he also used to work for the Eagles, and he's very close with a lot of people inside that organization. So great insight there. John Middlekauff used to be a scout for the Eagles under Howie Roseman, and he had some interesting things to say about A.J. as well. Then we'll quickly talk about some wide receiver targets for the Eagles in the draft. Before we get to that, today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, made possible thanks to our friends at Harry's. Think about this. Your phone is basically a supercomputer, right? I'm on it all the time because of my job. Your car, if you're whipping around a Tesla, it can park itself. Your headphones cancel noise like magic. But your razor, is it still flimsy? Is it still overpriced? Don't be stuck in 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2026. So I've made the switch to Harry's razors, and it has been a game changer for me. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face, refined blade technology for a close, smoother shave, and a weighted metal handle. It feels like an expensive shave, but it's not. Refills are still cheaper than the other guys. It's designed with progressive blades for less tug and pull. With Harry's Plus, you get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Each blade is honed at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. Blade spacing is optimized to glide smoothly and avoid clogging. Drugstore blades clog so fast. Every cartridge includes a lubricating strip with aloe and vitamin E to calm your skin while you shave. Harry's also owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. No outsourcing, no middleman. That same facility has been perfecting blade making for over 100 years. Why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of that? So listen closely. For a limited time, our listeners, anybody here on Radio Row and Indy, you can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/chat. This set includes an all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just go to harrys.com/chat to claim this offer. After you make your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that Philadelphia Eagles Now sent you. All right, we move forward on the show. My boy AP, killing it on the ones and twos, producing the show here from the Combine. We caught up with Fran Duffy, and that full interview is up on Eagles Now. We talked about the biggest offseason storylines, the Eagles going into free agency, the draft strategy, who the Eagles could select as far as individual players, but I also asked him about A.J. Brown, and he said himself he doesn't feel great about A.J. being an Eagle in 2026. You can see it for yourself. What's your feel on kind of what happens with AJ? Is he an Eagle in 2026?
I don't feel great about it. I don't think it's 100%. And it's one of those things like we'll see. I won't feel great about it until it actually happens. There's just been too much smoke about it for the last 2 years to feel really good that he's definitely going to be here. Now maybe it is enough where they change the offensive scheme and you kind of bring him in and say like, hey, like this is what we envision you looking like in this offense, and this is how the pass game is going to operate. I don't know if it's just too far gone. I talk about all the hard decisions they have to make. The decision to part with A.J. Brown, that's as big of a decision as you're going to make because you don't have an in-house replacement, and it's hard to go out and find someone that's going to replicate what he has done. So that's going to be a tough one. I don't feel great about it, though, about him being in Philadelphia.
There's a reason why that saying exists, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's been smoke and fire going all the way back to 2023 when A.J. Brown seemingly hasn't been the happiest member of the Eagles organization. Now, it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, he got out of Tennessee. They didn't want to give him a contract extension. The Eagles have given him 2 contracts, once after the trade, another one going into the 2024 season. They've made him a very highly compensated player, and he's the only player in Eagles franchise history to have 4 straight years of more than 1,000 yards. This is also complicated for the Eagles because they love A.J. Brown. They want A.J. Brown on the roster. And the perception of A.J. outside the building in the social media world is a lot different than the perception of A.J. Brown inside the building. He is so respected by Howie Roseman, by Nick Sirianni, and his teammates. And I talked about that as John Middlekauff dropped us that knowledge the other day right here on Radio Row.
If they wanted to trade AJ, they'd probably get a top 50 pick, right? I heard some people say yesterday first, but I don't think they want to trade him. Like they like AJ Brown. AJ Brown is well liked in the organization, and I think it's complicated because the relationship with the quarterback. I don't know how it's going to play out, but they're not just going to be like, oh, take him for a third. Like you're going to have to pay to get him.
Couple things there, right? Middlekauff, as I said, used to work under Howie Roseman. They remain very close. Middlekauff's got a lot of buddies inside the Eagles organization, but it's also a look into how Howie's brain is operating, right? Eagles aren't just going to give away a top 10 wide receiver who prior to this year, since 2022, has been a perennial top 5 wide receiver. Let's pivot this conversation a little bit, and let's start talking about the NFL draft. I was talking to Daniel Jeremiah the other day of the NFL Network, and he said it's a deep wide receiver class. And there are a lot of different flavors at the wide receiver position, right? There are big guys, possession guys who can go up and get it, jump ball threats, good red zone targets. There are also guys who aren't outside wide receivers. They are more slot guys. There are gadget weapons who are very quick and fast. And so nobody knows draft prospects better than Fran Duffy. And I asked Fran Duffy about the wide receiver position going into the draft, and here's what he had to say. The draft is your wheelhouse. Eagles sitting at 23, a lot of needs, offensive line, corner, tight end, safety, wide receiver could be a need depending on what happens with AJ. Where do you think the Eagles go at 23?
I do think it's an offensive player. I think that for all the reasons we talked about earlier, where you have all those defensive guys that are ready to be paid, because you're not letting a lot of those guys out. If you're paying Jalen Carter, $30 million a year, you're paying Quinyon Mitchell, $20 million a year, you're paying all these guys big money. Cooper DeJean, north of $18 million a year. All those guys are going to be coming up the next couple of years. That means you need to backfill that with cheap talent on offense. So whether or not A.J. Brown's here, I think that it's either going to be an offensive lineman or it's going to be a wide receiver, a pass catcher in the first round. And I think, honestly, like when you go second round, or day 2 rather, they've got 3 picks on day 2 with the comp pick. I would be surprised if it's not like 2 of the 3 picks on day 2 are offensive players. I just think that they need to start to backfill and get more reinforcements there on the offensive side of the ball.
I was talking to Daniel Jeremiah the other day, and I think it's a deep wide receiver class. He made a point. It's a wide receiver class that features a lot of different flavors. There are big-bodied wide receivers who are possession guys who can go up and get it. There are some speedsters, inside guys, outside guys, X, Y, Z, whatever. Do you kind of see it that way at the wide receiver position? Because if the Eagles don't go wide out round 1, I do think there's some solid wide outs round 2, round 3.
Yeah, I think that it's such a volume position now. It's always going to be like, oh, it's a pretty good receiver class. Now, it's at the very top. Is there the Marvin Harrison Jr. prospect? Is there the Jamar Chase prospect coming out? Like, no. Now, guys are going to go. Like Cardinal Tate's going to go in the top 10. Is he an ideal top 10 pick? Probably not. But to your point, and to DJ's point, yeah, there's always going to be the wide volume, the wide variety of skill sets. So the possession slots, the vertical players, the big possession guys. So I think that depending on what the Eagles are looking for and what they value, they'll be able to find what they need in this class.
Appreciate Fran Duffy for hopping on the show, and what the guys are doing at PHLY is really good stuff. Really talented people over there who are providing really good Eagles coverage on their YouTube channel. A name that is garnering a lot of attention, and a name that I think is very fascinating. A player linked to the Eagles a little bit who's starting to rise up draft boards, and we'll see how he tests at the NFL Combine on Saturday. That's when wide receivers will hit the field across the street at Lucas Oil Stadium. Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana. His quarterback in college, Fernando Mendoza, this past year, compared Omar Cooper Jr. to Deebo Samuel in his prime. Some similarities there. Omar Cooper Jr. is a very physical player. He is a very stacked build. He is very dynamic at picking up yards after the catch. He's a willing run blocker, and he prides himself on playing bully ball with having that physical background. With Omar, I think the 40-yard dash is going to be important. Some of the testing is going to be important. But also with him, I think he's a little bit of a better route runner than Deebo Samuel and more of a natural hands catcher than Deebo Samuel, who became an All-Pro in 2021 by being a good wide receiver. For a long time there, he was leading the NFL in yards after the catch since he was drafted in 2019. Kyle Shanahan used him a lot as that wide back and gadget weapon, and he was so dynamic. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2019. Omar Cooper Jr., by the way, is a player who against Penn State had to climb the ladder, go up and catch that game-winning touchdown pass from Mendoza when he somehow got a couple of feet down at the back of the end zone to come back against Penn State and keep Indiana's undefeated season alive. This guy's a freak, and with the physical traits, he's a player who I think would become really interesting for the Eagles if they were to move off of A.J. Brown. And lastly, from a financial sense, before we get on out of here, you know, A.J. Brown's making more than $30 million per year. Omar Cooper Jr., you take him in the first round, you exercise that fifth-year option, you get him at a fraction of the cost of A.J. for the next 5 years. And that's how you keep your roster affordable. That's how you stay under the cap. That's what gives you money to invest in players like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, up for contract extensions. Open up some financial room in the future for the likes of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Yo, I appreciate all of you for hanging out here with me. I know it was a long show. If you watch this whole video, I want you to drop a real one down in the comment section because you're all the best. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for rocking with us during Combine Week. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you soon.